Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Snipes, and if you're just checking out the channel, this series is going to be how to play an operator. Now, if you don't know how to play an operator because you're just checking it out, I started this with Hibana, and I plan to carry it out through all of the operators. Also, if there are any big changes or nerfs or buffs, I'll make sure to either remake the video or probably give it the updated information. I've just been going with commenting on the video, or at least putting it in the description of the video, so make sure to pay attention to that because some of these operators have been changed. Also, this series is how to play an operator within a team environment, how to play with your team, and the role that you'll fit on that team. Now, these videos are subjective to what I've seen on Pro League, Challenge League, Go4s, and how I play and how I see others play. Also, it will help whether you are solo king or if you're running in a 5-stack. Now, remember that different regions have different playstyles and that individual players have personal preferences, but overall, this is how I believe you should play the operator. Anyways, let's start off with how to play Jackal. Now, Jackal is actually introduced with Year 2 Season 1. He was introduced with Mira, and honestly, both of them changed the meta in such a big way because Jackal's primary focus in reality now, and still was, is that he was focused on roamers, and the whole gadget that he currently has is focused on roamers. And not only that, but when he first came out, his AR was completely OP because it was pretty much a laser and still a pretty strong gun. They did mess with the recoil just a tiny bit, but it's a pretty strong gun, honestly. And the weapons that I'll go over later on in this video really just do a lot more work than I feel like people realize on Jackal, and Jackal's probably one of the most well-rounded in terms of utility and firepower that he currently has. So, just to go over his gadget really quickly and kind of explain it, don't want to get in too much detail about all of the who's and what's about it. His ability allows you to track footsteps up to 90 seconds long. So, if a defender steps there and a minute and 20 has passed, those footsteps will still be there and allow him to track it. So after 90 seconds, the footprints disappear. Just to kind of give you an idea, I mean, it's in 20 seconds, it pings every 5 seconds. So if you're being tracked down as a roamer and they have their ping, you need to be ready to take these fights or at least try to take someone down with you because you're going to get pinged out. But if you're able to shoot him, you won't get pinged anymore. It's not going to stay on you. Also, if you're Cav, your footprints won't stow up as long as you're using the silent step ability. And if you do end up getting tagged, you can use the silent step ability just to kind of ward off it. You won't get pinged as long as your silent step ability is on. So make sure you turn the silent step ability on and just kind of juggle it off and on if you are Cav. Also, a thing that I thought was pretty interesting, he doesn't have to go right up to the footprints. If the footprints are 8 meters away from him, he can actually still scan them. But it takes 3 seconds, so it's a very quick action, but you hear it normally. So if you hear a Jackal start to pull out his gadget and stuff, I would definitely go out and try to shoot him so that way you or your teammates don't get tracked down, don't get killed by someone trying to follow a Jackal ping. But with that being said, he's one of the most well-rounded operators I feel like in the game. Another thing to add is that if a defender dies while you're pinging them, all the footprints that you would have seen while they were running around, those all disappear, and honestly it's probably a good thing because then kind of get lost, but it creates a lot less clutter and it makes everything look a little bit smoother because a lot of people can step in the same place and you don't know which footsteps are which, so it's a good idea and I'm glad that they did that. Lastly, before we hop into the loadouts, the only other way that any other operator besides Cav can avoid Jackal's ping or avoid getting tracked is if you lay down. Crouching and standing up, those will put footprints on the ground, but if you're laying down, Jackal can't scan them because you don't make footprints. Now, the pretty interesting thing that they added in the game, it's just a little nifty thing that I don't think people really use because crawling's not very useful in this game. It's more useful to just lay down behind cover. It's the only time you'll ever be laying down, typically in a prone position. Let's hop right into the loadout. So, as I was saying, he has one of the most well-rounded operators. It gives you a lot of choices, and his primaries that you can choose from, the first one that I would normally go with, one I would normally suggest is the C7E. It's an assault rifle. You can put an ACOG on it. You can put an angled grip on it. It's probably one of the best assault rifles in the game on the attacker side, at least. I mean, there's not too many on the defender side, but it's one of the best on the attacker side. And with that being said, there's also PDW9. Now, a lot of people have been kind of pick and choosing between the two. The assault rifle is a lot longer, so maybe if you're worried about peeking out, but the PDW9 actually does a great job up close, and that's, again, submachine guns typically do a little bit better up close just because of the rate of fire and whatnot, but this one has a drum mag, so a lot of ammo and a lot of firepower. You can also use an ACOG on it, so, I mean, what's not to love? Honestly, I would try both out. If you like the PDW more, there's nothing wrong with that. I would say a lot of times you have operators that don't have a good second primary to use. Jackal's probably one of the ones that you could use either and be completely fine. Now, the ITA-12L, that's just the long shotgun. I wouldn't ever go with that. There's not really ever a reason, because in your secondaries, you have the ITA-12S, which is just the shorter version of it. If you're picking between the USP-40 and the ITA-12S, I would definitely go with the ITA-12S, because the shotgun as a secondary is a really, really useful for having that ability to be able to make holes above, be able to make rotations and anything like that. And with that being said, you have your gadgets to choose from. Now you can choose a breach charge or a smoke grenade. If I am the person playing Jackal, I'm typically gonna take the smoke grenades, a lot of utility. I wouldn't bring the breach charges, especially if you're going to bring the shotgun on the secondary anyways. Pretty much the most well-rounded operator, I think, across the board. If you're taking a look into Jackal, definitely keep him in mind. He's a great job also. He's a 2-speed, 2 armor, so he's got enough speed to get him around the map and get him where he needs to go and hunt down roamers. With that being said, though, let's hop right into the tips and tricks. So if you guys are looking for some tips and tricks, I hope that this is the right place for them. But without further ado, I'm going to pop up a chart here on the screen for you guys just to get a better idea what you guys exactly are looking at. Now, on the top, you're going to see different footprints. Now, there's 4 different footprints. Normally, I wouldn't say as Jackal that I'm looking for what footprints and what context it'll actually give me. It's just a nice little touch that I think could help you if you're looking for someone specifically. I guess if there's a couple of different footprints on the ground, or a couple different sets of footprints, you can choose which one you want the most and which one you kind of decide on. I don't know exactly what the thought process was on which footprints are to who. It used to be 3 armor and 2 armor, and then 1 armor used to have different footprints, but now they have 4 sets of footprints, which makes it a little bit more interesting, I guess. You can actually see which footprints are aligned with which operators, but below that, that's the important thing you want to look at. So if you take a look, the colors represent basically where along the lines this person has been. So if it's red hot, that means that person was just there, and honestly, if you have your gadget out, you need to be looking for that person, because that means that you're on their trail, or you're probably right next to them and there might be in another room or something. A lot of times if you see a green or yellow, that normally means that the person kind of went off in that direction, but they might not be in that general location. Red is really the key sign that someone is right next to you, and that is very recent. Now, there isn't too much of a difference between all of these, so could be there a couple seconds earlier, a couple seconds later. So just be wary though of the color. The color is really just going to tell you exactly what you're looking at. As I said earlier, when you actually go down and you go to track someone, this little tiny line pops up and kind of connects all the dots, so to speak, of where they might have went. So if you're looking and someone's turned into a room, you're going to be able to follow those footprints into a room, because say if they kind of went in a circle or something like that, you'll be able to follow the footprints exactly where they went. Now, this will only show up while you're scanning, not the entire time. So don't be too worried about this being completely OP if you've never played against or with Jackal before. They get 5 pings though off of this, so make sure that you are very wary. The fact that if you get caught out, you're gonna be in a big problem. So try to not get caught out too early, too far away. I would guess that they're gonna probably nerf this on him, but we're gonna have to see. So another thing that I really want to point out with Jackal is that he actually has a really good synergy with Lion. Now, I don't want to explain this, but I think that it's a tip and trick that a lot of people can use in ranked, but you won't see a lot of Lion play in ranked, especially more recently after the nerf. But even with his nerf, it still has the same issue, but that's not the point here. So if you have a Jackal and Lion paired up, you can actually clear out roamers a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently than you normally would be able to. Jackal in and of itself can clear out a roamer, but with a Lion, it makes it so much faster and so much easier, and that was kind of the problem. That's why he got banned from Pro League, was because of the fact that Lion made it so much easier because he held people in place. Now, if you're Jackal, and let's say you scan some footprints, so you think someone is roaming, as soon as you see that first ping go off, if you think that he's in a good position, call Lion to use his ability and trap that person in place. Now, the Lion scan is very short now, so unless it's really close, you probably won't get too far, but your ping still goes, so it still will kind of impede this person from escaping. I mean, it's been a big problem with Lion on the board. But with the last tip and trick that I have for you guys be careful when you're pushing into a site, and more so when you're pushing into a site. It doesn't usually happen too often where a mute or anything like that will be off site. But there's two things that can actually hinder your view while you're in the Nox, the eye Nox that goes over your face and turns the screen purple. The first thing, if you're standing anywhere near a mute jammer, your whole entire screen will pretty much go static, and that's because of the mute's jammer effect. Now, this makes a lot of sense, but if you're pushing site, make sure to take your ability off. Don't turn it on while you're heading in. There's no point to even have it on because it kind of takes away some of the colors that you might see of an enemy. You might end up losing a gunfight due to that. But if they have a mute, be really weary of that, because say if you're playing on Oregon, you can get a lot of vertical mute play from that, and it'll cause a lot of problems for you if you're trying to push in a meeting. Also, with that being said, speaking of static, if you get shocked by, so if Cade or Bandit has something electrified, say a wall or something like that, and you step and hit into it or tap it or whatever, you're actually going to have the exact same static effect that you would have had with a mute. It won't last as long because you're not standing in a mute jammer. It's going to cause issues for you to be able to see regardless. So just make sure you're wary of that stuff. It's really hard to shoot and to see even. When I only use my ability when I think that I have some footprints already in front of me, even though I don't see them immediately until I put on my gadget. I usually can hunt down roamers with my drone anyways. I just use his ability as kind of just to hold people down in place, or at least give me an idea of where they headed off to. Especially if someone just got a hatch or something like that, they might have ran back to site, or they might be trying to go for a flank. It really holds people in place a lot more. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him get nerfed in the near future, especially given the fact that he has so much utility on the board with his secondary shotgun, his smoke grenades, and his ability. It makes for a very well-rounded character, but it could be seen as OP depending on who you're talking to. Well, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video for today. Let me know if there's any Jackal tips that you guys have for everyone else. I'll make sure to leave a comment down below if I figure out anything else on the board. Anyways, this is going to be Josh Snipes signing off.
Bomb has been located. Last stop standing. Op 4 neutralized. Mission success.